Hello, I'm Lucy from Colouring in the Midst of Madness, and today I am bringing you a comparison of Sprookjesbos and Vilin. Now these are the same book. This one is the original Croatian edition, and this is the second book by Croatian artist Tomislav Tomic, who did Zemlja Snova, and this is the Dutch edition, and the Dutch edition of Zemlja Snova was called Dromenvanger. And reviews of both of those can be found on my channel and on my blog, as well as a comparison post of those books as well. So, as many of you will know, Vilin and Zemlja Snova are exceedingly difficult to get hold of, and they are some of the most beautiful books on the market. Now, I'm kind of known in the colouring community for being quite pedantic, and doing these comparison posts where I show you all of the differences that can be found. So most of these won't affect enjoyment, they're just things that I've noticed, but there are 3 or 4 differences that definitely will affect your enjoyment of the book, so do try and watch through to the end to discover what those are, because there are bits missing, there are added bits, so it's definitely worth watching the whole thing. So I have found 23 differences this time. So the first one is the covers. Now they both have a soft feel, and they have different glossy accents, which I'm hoping are showing up. They also have obviously the same cover image, but they've got very different bits coloured in, and for some reason it's printed larger on Sprookjesbos than it is on Vilin. I have no idea why. So the third difference is the publishing logo. So this is the BBNC publisher logo down here, and the Focus one up here. So the fourth difference is the cover card. Now both are paperback and they have equally thick card. Now this one folds out, but yeah, they are equally thick. So I'll turn these over. And the back covers, as you can see, are completely different. So Sprookjesbos has the same image but reversed on the back, and this is actually a frame from inside the book. I think it's from the introduction page, and as you can see there's no colour on there. Now I don't read or speak Croatian or Dutch, so I'm afraid I don't know if these say the same things or not. I'm guessing not, because this is an awful lot more text than this. Hopefully someone can let me know what those say at some point. But to those of us that don't speak either language, it probably doesn't matter because we don't understand it anyway. So number 6 is the inside covers. It's like musical books doing these posts. So inside Sprookjesbos, there is nothing on the cover, it's just plain card. On the inside of Vilin, we have these French flaps, which are 2/3 French flaps, and it opens out into this beautiful bluey purple castle scene, and that's front and back. Number 7, we're closing the books again. Number 7 is the spine. Now, here you'll see one of the biggest differences about the books. So obviously the spine is much, much thicker on Sprookjesbos than Vilin, and I will explain all about that in a moment as we get through the video. So the difference here is that the publishing logos are different, and the information is in a different order, and there is a subtitle added to the Croatian edition and not to the Dutch edition. So number 8 is the book size. Now this is really difficult to show up on camera, but I'm hoping that you can see that I have lined them up at the spine end, and the Vilin cover is ever so slightly wider. Now the pages are exactly the same size as Sprookjesbos, but the cover extends a bit. However, the imagery is exactly the same. So number 9, I've already kind of covered this. So the thickness, as you saw, Sprookjesbos is pretty much twice the size of Vilin. Now it doesn't have any new artwork, it has exactly the same artwork, but as I say, I will explain about that in a moment. So number 10 is the binding. They are both glue and string bound. I'm hoping this will focus. There we go. So yeah, you won't have any issues with pages falling out or anything like that. It does mean they're a little bit tricky to get to lie flat, so you will have to kind of work on that over time. It really does ease up over time, so don't worry about that. The next thing is a very obvious difference, which is the languages. So Vilin San is written in Croatian throughout, and Sprookjesbos is in Dutch. As I said before, I don't understand either, so I can't compare any of the text. They've obviously also both been published by different publishers, which I also covered before, so I won't go into that again. Right, so one of the big differences is the paper colour. So I'm just going to tuck this cover under here. So, Sprookjesbos has been printed on cream paper, just like all of the other books by BBNC, the publisher, and Vilin San is on crisp white paper. And this is the same paper used in Zemlja Snova. The paper thickness, which is number 15 on my list, so you can listen to this. Now they sound pretty similar. The Vilin San paper is a bit thinner than the Sprookjesbos paper. Both are really quite good with pencils. The Sprookjesbos paper, some of us have issues with oil-based pencils on it. They kind of don't want to colour thinly and evenly. They come, it's almost like they sort of clump and go a bit sticky. I found that it's really good for Prismacolors, but I know a couple of people actually have contacted me recently to say that they've had issues with it. So it is slightly temperamental paper, but if you have any of the books by this publisher and you don't have issues with that paper, then you'll be absolutely fine. Now, I haven't yet coloured on this, but I have previously in other books. Water-based pens don't shadow or bleed as long as you're careful. However, they really do on this Vilin San paper. So this is very much a book that you have to just use pencils in. Nothing that seeps into the paper will work because it does just go straight through. This was just done with Stabilo fine liners. They're just water-based pens, and I was trying as carefully as I could to be really light, and you can see it's completely shadowed. And that doesn't happen on Sprookjesbos. So number 16 on the list is the copyright page. Now, oddly, in Sprookjesbos, it's at the back. I have no idea why. I've not seen this in a book before, I don't think, but there it is. It's also laid out differently from Vilin San. So yes, that's difference number 16. Difference number 17 is the image order. Now, throughout the book, they are identical, apart from one double page spread, which has been moved in Sprookjesbos. So I'll just see if I can find that. I didn't actually mark it, so, which I really should have done. Oh, I think I might have already gone past it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I have. There it is. So this one is kind of bang in the middle of the book in Sprookjesbos, and it's one of the very last pages in Vilin San. However, there were issues originally with the first editions of Zemlja Snova, with some double page spreads not being matched up properly and having one half of one page and one half of another matched up. There are no issues at all with the image order in Vilin San or in Sprookjesbos. It's literally just this double page spread has just been moved somewhere else in the book. But because of how this is printed, it hasn't affected any other images, so you don't need to worry about that at all. The next thing is the image size. So in in Zemlja Snova and Dromenvanger, there was a slight difference in image size with some of the first pages. With both of these, they are identical on all of the pages I've checked. So they are exactly the same size. The image orientation, number 19, so they are spaced slightly differently between the books. I'll find this page actually in Vilin. So although they are exactly the same size images, they are sometimes put in slightly different places on the page. Of course I found one that actually kind of isn't. That's really helpful. So I'll just find a different one that definitely did have this as an example. Oh no, too far. Is it that one? No. So, as you will be seeing here, I'll be talking about it more in a minute, but Sprookjesbos is printed partially single-sided. Right, if you look at this leaf and this leaf, this one's got a bit less showing at the bottom than this one, and I mean it really is very tiny as a difference, but it's just something that I noticed, and you know me, I like to point these things out. So number 20 on my comparison list is the weight. Now as you've seen, Vilin is significantly thinner and smaller than Sprookjesbos, and so obviously they weigh different amounts. So Vilin weighs 317 grams and Sprookjesbos is 463. Now part of this is because of the page numbers, so there's only 40 pages in Vilin and there are 68 pages in Sprookjesbos, but also I think the paper is thicker and therefore heavier in that one as well. Another main difference is the availability. Now Vilin, as most of you will know, is extremely difficult to get hold of. I run a Tomislav fan group, and we do run group orders from Croatia to around the world, but those are pretty much dried up recently because I think most people who want the book have already got it now, and it is just very expensive, and because this had a lot fewer images in it than Zemlja Snova, people just kind of couldn't justify the cost because it's the same cost for the book even though it's half the number of pages. Sprookjesbos is currently a bit easier to get hold of, and I'm hoping it will become easier still because Dromenvanger, the Dutch edition of Zemlja Snova, is now on Amazon UK. I don't know if they ship worldwide. They certainly ship to some places outside the UK. But it did take a number of months to get there, so there is currently a listing, but you can't actually buy it there. But I will be sure to update you all if and when that happens, and I'm very hopeful that it might. The other thing is there are at least 2 very good Dutch shopping sites where you can order it online, and the international shipping is significantly cheaper than trying to get the Croatian edition. So personally I would really recommend trying to get hold of this book because it is cheaper and easier to get hold of. So yeah, that's a huge difference, is that Sprookjesbos is so much easier to actually obtain and it's cheaper. So number 22 is the poster. Now in Vilin there is this lovely loose poster which opens out. It's really difficult to get on camera, but it opens out onto a 4-page spread. Now unfortunately, and I have no idea why this is the case, this is not included in the Dutch edition Sprookjesbos, and that imagery is just not in the book. So the only way of getting hold of this poster imagery is to buy Vilin, which is a real shame. I have no idea sort of why that happened. I guess it must be exclusive to the Croatian publisher. But yeah, if you're desperate for the poster, you will have to purchase a copy of Vilin San. However, that aside, I do think that Sprookjesbos is the better option, and that's because it is printed mostly single-sided. Now, it's not every page. The double page spreads have been deliberately printed together, and therefore every sort of third or fourth page-ish, some of these pictures are printed double-sided. But for the most part, they are single-sided. So there you can see that obviously that one is printed on the reverse, but most of them are not. This would mean that you could remove the pages and frame them if you want, and it means you won't be wasting any images. And it also means that you can use wet media. This paper, as I said, holds up much better to water-based pens, but on these single-sided sheets you could also use alcohol markers and stuff that bleeds through because it won't matter. So I'm really pleased that this has kind of been printed in a different way, because the artwork is just gorgeous. I mean, I absolutely adore these books, and it's a shame for those of you who like to use wet media and heavy media to not be able to do that in Vilin San, because you can't get multiple copies because it's just so expensive. So Sprookjesbos really does kind of open up doors and sort of extend your options for what you can do with the artwork, especially as it is more readily available and at a lower cost. So that's all of the comparisons and differences. As I say, most of them don't impact it at all. It really doesn't matter if it's written in Dutch or Croatian unless you're from one of those countries. And even then it probably doesn't matter that much because the rest of us can't read it anyway. The paper is a big consideration. You do have to kind of get used to this paper, but I do think the artwork looks absolutely lovely on the cream. Even though it does look lovely on the white as well, it kind of feels quite different on the different colours. And I know a lot of people notice that with Drommenvanger and Zemlya as well. It does feel different on the different papers, so it almost feels like a different book even though it's not. It's a real shame that this doesn't include the poster or the poster artwork. Otherwise I would have absolutely no hesitation in flat out recommending this one. But such is life, there's nothing we can do about it. The fact that this is cheaper and easier to get hold of really does sway things for me. And much as the poster's lovely, it's not that practical to colour or to display because of its shape and size. And so while it is a shame to not have it, unless you're absolutely desperate for it, I would really recommend this book over the other one, because the single-sided printing is so useful. So yeah, as I say, most of those differences don't affect enjoyment at all. They're just things I noticed and wanted to kind of pick up on. But yeah, if you need any more help deciding, do please get in touch. I'm very, very happy to answer questions. Do let me know in the comments which book you're going to get and why. And do join my fan group as well, because we absolutely love to see your artwork. We do try to run group orders when we can, but it does require patience, I'm afraid, because they're not overly popular now, because so many people have already got the books. But all of the links that you need are in the description box below. Please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. There is a written version of this post which will include photos, so you can have a closer look at that. There's also my written review or my video review, because I've just done one for this and there is already one for Vilin San on my channel, and all of those should be linked at the end of this video. So there's plenty of places you can find out more about all of these books. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye!